Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of AWS Show and Tell. We've got a pretty exciting one in store for folks today. I hope you see some on-camera chemistry today because you just so happen to be tuning into three guys that are on the show, but also happen to be in the same team at Amazon. So anyway, folks, I'm Trevor Spires. I'm a solutions architect here at Amazon. One of your hosts for today. I'm coming at you from the greater Boston area. So if folks are tuning in live, let us know where you're coming in from. And Anil, let me hand it over to you to say hi to the folks and let them know what we've got in store for them today.
All right. So, everyone, welcome to AWS Show and Tell. Anil Narvindi here. Trevor already gave us a little bit of introduction, but I'm on the enterprise solutions architecture team working with our financial services customers. So, we have John as well. So, we'll go through the introductions first and maybe we'll hit the topic next.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Cherian. I'm a senior solution architect, colleague of Anil and Trevor. I am from the Maryland area.
Yeah, I'm joining from New Jersey, but generally travel to New York. So happy to know where you folks are joining from. And today's topic, right, is slightly different, right? We've been all chatting about AI, building AI bots, and helping accelerate the pipeline, right? So, but then what is important, right? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? What is all that the deal with AI being able to solve, right? So we have John who's here to talk about accelerating the data pipelines that will help AI get the data into a better shape. So I think I'll let John introduce this topic, right? So how about that?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. Um, we've been hearing about data for AI, which means we want to prepare the data in the right quality and standards and right semantic layer in order for the agent to consume the data. But what people are not talking about is how to get there. We have always have the target state in mind, and in order to get to the target state in an accelerated fashion, we introduced a campaigning internally called AI for data. It's the other way around. AI for data, which means we are using AI to get to the target state, which is the data for AI. And we are using multi-agent frameworks to accelerate that process of building pipelines. I want to say not just building, we are also deploying pipelines and testing it using agents in, I want to say, in AWS ecosystem. And sometimes you don't even have to look at the console. It's all done by agents, productivity agents like Claudes, Codexes, Kiros. As long as they have the right directions, guardrails, guidances, it can do end-to-end in, I want to say, in hours, versus sometimes it takes weeks and months in the manual route and testing everything. But this cut shorts that months and days into hours and then deploy very quickly into production.
Very cool. I'm super excited for this, right? Because I feel like a lot of the people on the line are probably familiar with the concept of like agentic software development already, right? And of course, maybe even some of the viewers have used agentic coding tools like Akiro or Claude Code, and I think that's great for like general purpose development sort of tasks. But like what really struck me about when you started to show this off to the team over the last few, you've been talking about this for months now, right?
Yeah.
Is like really how this can directly this technology can directly enable data operations, right, and data engineering functions, which is like a really a specialized type of development, right?
Yeah.
And also a high stakes one, because oftentimes what you do as a data engineer, you're kicking off things that churn through a lot of compute oftentimes and can be costly as well. And so this idea of optimizing that function with AI just makes sense to me. So I'm excited to learn more today.
Most of the times, like there is a human involvement required because
Yeah.
only a certain set of individuals know about the data sets, and John is going to speak a lot more about that. But this whole pipeline is really accelerating the the human part, like figuring out how we can get that knowledge into the system. So John, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, sure. I want to start by saying the way we interact with UI is evolving and sometimes changing, right? The way I search the web is changing now. I don't search and open few links. I don't do that anymore. I get a summarized version of those webs. I don't look at outlooks anymore. My day starts with a quick suite. I just run quick suite and pick the priority items. I work on those things. And just like that, when I develop samples or like code samples, I don't look at AWS console either. Like I work with Kiros, the clouds of the world, to build my pipelines, not just building, deploy them and test everything on agent. And I asked agent, what's the status? And it clearly says, I built this code, deployed it on AWS, tested it, it looks good. Sometimes there are like few hiccups here and there, but it's forgiving. And it is fixing on its own some of these concepts and needed some guidances. So I saw a lot of accelerations happening in this space. And I was telling my colleagues that, hey, we should also start looking into data engineering specific pipeline. And so that we can embed some of those concepts, the best practices into some of these, the Claude codes or the Kiros of the world, so that they understand how to develop it in the right fashion. And one of the common challenges our customers face is I call it the paradox of choice. And this means there are so many tools out there. And sometimes people like me appreciate variety, but some people just want to keep it simple and pick few tools and build their tech stack and build their data pipeline end to end. But sometimes some of these tools and subtle variances in the tool is confusing some of customers as well as users. So that is where I recently came upon a GitHub released by Gary Tan, Y Combinator CEO. It's called GStack. Look it up. It's an interesting GitHub where he prompted the way he analyzes a business, all the startups and everything, and he provided a couple of tools, which means we are now able to clone a part of a person into prompts, right? So that is where the agentic framework that we are building is going to help our customers. We, as an architect, can build a dimension of us into these prompts. And when the agent runs, let's say the Claude code runs and say, hey, for real-time pipeline versus batch pipeline, should I pick glue streaming versus simple glue? This would be already defined in those prompts. And you, like agent Trevor, can be inside Claude, and agent Anil can be inside Claude. Prompt your way into the Claude, and Claude can connect to your prompts and decide what to come up with, what tech stack to come up with, and decisions made. And similarly, or even organizations can build the philosophies into the prompt. So that's where I'm talking about AI decision engine. And AI is capable of making decisions, but since we understand these Gen AI is generally dynamic in nature, it can provide one result one time, another result different time. So it needs guidance. It needs those guidances around how to pick a tech stack, how not to pick, what not to pick. All these information can be embedded into a Claude.md or a skills.md. Some of those concepts can be embedded. So that's another thing that is solved using agentic data engineering pipeline. And like I said, you as an organization, your philosophies can be embedded into the Claude codes and Kiros of the world, so they understand how to build the system, what to use, and when to use.
So are these more like skills, John? Like in another way, like for the AI systems to understand more about this?
That is correct. It is partly skills and a decision. I want to call it decision engine. It's still a .md file, but in the decision engine, we clearly say, hey, for real-time pipeline, use glue streaming versus batch pipeline, use regular glue, or for low-cost Spark pipelines, use EMR. And that is exactly what we embedding into these files. These are like simple .md files, can be easily editable by any user, and they can start pushing their own philosophy into these things. So some organizations say, I want to go all serverless. Some organizations say, I want to go manage services. I want to optimize my cost. So like you can put in your design philosophies into these skills or prompts or however you want to call it. But this is again a decision engine. It can be a prompt, or it can be more like a graph node, however you want to design it, how fast the Claude wants to access it. Okay, so I want to like quickly go over, like, we all know what AI ready data is. It's like enabling the business leaders and the AI agents to make faster decision on the data, so that it has a clean data to access and provide all the contextual information and reasoning capabilities. And where I'm going to is the pillars of AI ready data. So we have done like 70 plus engagements with customers. And one of the common challenges that customer faces, they don't have a standardized data onboarding process. And when I say standardized data onboarding process, I'm not just mentioning that you can extract from an external data source and put it onto an S3 location or a landing zone. I'm not mentioning that. I'm talking beyond that. Like, how can we build all the way from external source all the way to, let's say, landing, curated, staging, and the published buckets. Or we can call it like silver, bronze, gold, however you want to call the zones. And that's what I mean by having a standardized onboarding. And what does it bring? It brings discipline to the builder. The builder might, or the common challenges I've seen is the builders onboard the data without capturing the metadata. And later on, as year pass, the data lake becomes data swamp. Like, you can't even find the right data set. You will find a lot of like duplicate data sets in there. So we want to avoid that. We want to build in at that discipline using AI when they onboard data. Go ahead.
Yeah, and one of the challenges that organizations have is that they have different data sets lying around, right? So does this solution address different kinds of data sets that are in the source systems that you are able to accelerate in the pipeline?
Yes. So like, let's say if you're onboarding customer data into it, and if customer data already exists in these in the ecosystem, it'll alert you saying that, hey, you already have this customer data. Why are you onboarding again? Are you trying to duplicate this information? And we have to provide a clear information on how this data is onboarded, why it should be onboarded again twice. That kind of brings alert to the builder saying that duplicate data, do not ingest unless there is a valid reason around it. So it really solves that duplicate data issues within the AWS ecosystem. And I want to say, while onboarding data, you want to capture the metadata. It's a very important thing. A lot of people miss, and they don't know what exists in the data lake. And then comes semantic layer. This is one of the hot topic now. I want to say semantic layer has been there for a while, but now it's picking up traction because of the agentic AI. So metadata is one dimension. A layer on top of metadata is called semantic layer, a business context around it. So the agents and humans can easily understand what is going on, how to bring the right data set or right analytics on top of the data, what to join, what not to join, and bring the results that they're looking for. And data quality is always important. We want to understand how to profile data, have the right data quality so that agents consume data in the right manner. Self-service analytics is another capability, is how both humans and agent can discover data, have a data literacy across the enterprise. That's very important, right? Having a right semantic layer would help us self-service data and spread data literacy across enterprise, which means agents and humans have complete context on what is happening, what's in the data set, and how to use it. That's the important part. And automating the data operations. That's another part where we bring in the discipline and try to automate some of these processes so that it's structured and it is clean when it hits the final zone, which is gold zone or a published zone, however you want to call it. So again, most of the challenges we deal with data is around people, process, and technology. And this is a very old slide that I used for last 20 years, and it hasn't changed. And now with the agents in the picture, it is changing now. So just by throwing a technology at a problem will not solve the problem. We have to analyze whether it's a people, process, or technology. And that's where the agent comes into picture. Agent takes a little bit of people, a little bit of process, and a little bit of technology, and really helps us accelerate the whole event. So keep that in mind. And another key topic is I want to highlight here is the introduction of MCPs, right? So within AWS, we have MCPs that connect to AWS tools, right? Like Glues, EMRs of the world, etc. And we also have MCPs that connect to the databases, Redshift MCPs. We have DynamoDB MCPs, all these things. So imagine like we can combine these two tools and database together to start building those data pipeline much easier than before, which means I can just say, hey, load the CSV file into the Redshift table, this and that, and it will figure out, start building those scripts to load the data into Redshift. And you can see those scripts live building and deploying, and as well as loading the data as well. And this is now possible. And this is where we got to take this to the next level, where we want to call it the ADOP, the Agentic Data Operations Platform. And we think that this is going to be the future of data engineer. And this is more cultural than just a framework. Where we are going is we are trying to solve the data onboarding process. And like I said before, data onboarding does not mean moving from an external source to a landing zone. It's more than that. It's taking all the way to the published zone or the gold zone, so that it captures the metadata. It also populates the semantic layer. Like I said, semantic layer is a combination of metadata plus the business context, and it pushes access the data or the semantic layer. Agents can now access, and agents and humans both can access through the MCP layer, the semantic layer, and start running their queries or questions against the data. So the biggest question is always you should ask is your enterprise queryable? Which means if you have a question or a customer have a question, can you ask a question, get the answer? And that's the state where we want to get our customers to, and we call it the AI ready enterprise, where they ask a question and agents can run a bunch of analysis, combine tables, and get a response back to our customers. And like I said, semantic layer is a combination of business metadata, line of business context, and data context. And I have seen customers having different variations and combinations, but the crux is that adding another layer of business information will help agents and humans understand data across what is happening, to how to use the data, where to discover data, how to derive information from the data. So this is the core features of ADOP framework. And I want to say it is capable of data profiling and building the semantic layer. When I say building the semantic layer, it's building those ontologies, data ontologies, along with the human in the loop. So when you onboard a data set, the agent will ask a bunch of questions to the human, and human can provide answers. Hey, this is how the table looks like. It can make suggestions. Hey, this means this looks like a fact and dimension table. Is that a good approach? And you can say yes or no to it. So basically, it's a Q&A between the agent and human in the first phase to understand the semantic layer. And it is stored in a format called OWL format, and we want to say an extension of RDF format, but we can come to that later. And it is staged in an area, and we have a future projects coming up which can handle some of these semantic layer, which I'll talk later in the slide. And it also has capabilities of building ETL script. Right now, the agent as of now can build PySpark and SQL, and with slight modifications, you can make it to produce DBT scripts as well. So it is flexible. And like I said, decision engine is another area where you prompt your knowledge into the skills, and it can start picking up the right tools on the fly. When the agent requests for certain scenarios, it can pick the right tools. And also workflow orchestration. You can pick Airflows of the world, or you can simply use step functions in there. It can build those DAGs around it, so that once you build the DAG, it can deploy it, and you can visualize that Airflow DAG end to end. And the other part is the memory management. This is very important. Let's say you have a senior developer or a senior data engineer who onboards the data, and he has an advanced prompt, right? He knows the system. He's been working there for like years, and he knows how to onboard data in the right manner using the best practices. And he onboards the data, and his information will be stored in the memory. And next time when a junior developer comes in, he'll give a vague prompt, let's say, assume. And once he gives a vague prompt, the agent uses the common memory and asks a bunch of questions to the junior developer, and make sure that he onboards the data with the right best practices. So this is like a knowledge transfer in an agentic way.
Right. So is this where the tribal knowledge will get in there? Like, because most of the times enterprises have folks like who have knowledge about those systems, right? So where would that go?
Exactly. I mean, this is where the tribal knowledge will be captured, and this will be captured either in local, but I would highly recommend, if they're interested, they can capture in a common area, so that this can be leveraged to improve prompts, improve questions for the junior developer, and make it more of a disciplined and structured manner over a period of time. So it'll improve over a period of time as you progress onboarding data. And the most important part is the regulations and compliance. And this really helps. So let's say you want to onboard data sitting on an S3 location using, let's say, GDPR requirements. So it knows exactly what GDPR requirements entails. And I have a prompt in there that explains what should be asked during the GDPR. When they mention GDPR, it goes through that prompt one by one and make sure everything is followed while onboarding data. The right tagging, right field selection, PII detection. You want to tag it in lake formation, go ahead and create those things. And it does all those regulation. And when it comes to stocks, it makes sure the encryption is also there, part of the checklist. So it runs, ask you question, hey, do you want to encrypt the data? As per SOX compliance, this is required. So some of these concepts, regulations, we have embedded as prompts in there. And you can always add another regulation, something that's not here, into the prompt just like that in few minutes or hours based on the complexities of the requirement. Yeah, so this is where I want to say I want to show at a high level how the agent works, right? So there's a router agent to begin with, and the router agent is to make sure that when you onboard a data, you don't want to onboard a duplicate data. So it checks for the catalogs and makes sure that there is no duplicate data. So the router agent, if there is a duplicate data, it will clearly tell you, hey, it already exists, let's not onboard the data. Otherwise, it kickstarts the main agent. This is data onboarding agent is the main orchestrator, and it's a multi-agent framework. It starts with the metadata agent. It analyzes the data set. It runs the top 5% of the data, understands the data type, column type, distinct values, quality issues, everything will be analyzed with bunch of scripts. And once this is analyzed, it gets stored into a glue catalog, and eventually it will get into the semantic layer. But before that, I want to say there's something called ontology agent, which uses the metadata agent's context and information gathered, put additional information and add business context to it, asking a bunch of questions to the customer, and then load it as a OWL format. And that's what I'm showing on the right-hand side. The owl.ttl and shackles can be produced using ontology agent. And then comes the data quality agent. And this is the most important part. And what it does is, like, based on the metadata agent's information and the context, it starts creating those quality scripts to make sure there is the right column level information, parent-child relationships, quality threshold, and it makes sure that it creates those test gates. And it wants to make sure that we pass the test gates before getting into the next phase. So that's handled by data quality agent. And then comes the transformation agent. So these agents, like when they come one by one, they ask you questions. Hey, what columns to transform? How do you want to transform it? You can simply explain and show a couple of examples for certain columns. You can say, I want to abbreviate the states. Like instead of Maryland, I want it MD. And you can just simply say that abbreviate into 2-character abbreviation or something along those lines. You want to do a calculation. I want to run a DCF calculation on this particular equity. You know what I mean? So you can mention some of those concepts, and it will start building those concepts at the column level, at the same time at the table level. And then comes the orchestrator agent. And orchestrator agent means it can be Airflow, it can be step function. And what it does, it based on all these scripts and the context that all these agents provide, it starts connecting these dots together. Hey, I want to connect my glue crawler generated by metadata agent to ontology agent to load the data owl format, from there to data quality, and only if it passed, it should be getting into data transformation agent. All these tags are created automatically, and all these scripts are first generated and built in the local store. Once it is tested locally, it goes into the AWS environment. So that's where the deployment comes in. And I mentioned DevOps agent. That's a recently added feature where some of my customers are requesting, hey, now we have all these scripts. I want to deploy it into the higher environment. And I always say that these agents, that ADOP framework, will remain in your development environment. And I'll repeat that again. These agents will remain in your development environment and not in production. Only the artifacts go into production. So that is why we need a DevOps agent here. So this makes it more deterministic from a non-deterministic agent behavior to a deterministic scripts and artifacts generated by these agents, and can be once it's approved, it can be deployed into higher environments like QA or prod. Yeah, like I said, yeah, I want to say agents stay in dev and only artifacts go in prod.
So agents stay in dev, and when you say artifacts, these are the SQL scripts. These are the rest of the scripts that are generated. How does that work?
Exactly. So I can quickly show you how it works, but you are right. Agents generate these scripts like PySpark script, glue crawler configurations. All these things will be created and stored in a local repository, and from there, the DevOps agent access these local folders, start building those Terraform scripts or CloudFormation script or CDK scripts. And once that is ready, you can deploy those scripts into the higher environment and recreate the scripts in QA or prod.
I think a lot of customers that hear the story from you are probably happy to hear that, because I think it makes sense, right? It actually kind of solidifies what you've been saying, that the fit here is using AI to build out your I think production artifacts or your production deployments and pipelines. So anyway, I see your IDE here. Yeah. And maybe a child as well in the background. I don't know if that's exactly what I got there, but always welcome another guest if you got another guest lined up for us.
There you go. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. My bad, guys. The kids are home, so
that's cool, right? So that happens.
That's wonderful. It's a live show, folks. It's a live show. Anything can happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know whether is the resolution good? Can you see the screen now?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the repository. It's available online. It's on AWS samples, and I will paste the link in the chat. And all you have to do is clone this repository onto your Keros of the world, Claude Code of the world, and start onboarding your data sets. And it looks like this. And I want to show the high level prompt and the detailed prompt that I personally use. So which means the high level prompt would look something like this. Once it's cloned, I'm going to say onboard e-commerce orders. Let's say I'm just giving an example. From this S3 location, CSV file, GDPR requirements, follow this GDPR requirements, and daily load, batch, 930, gold zone, DQ, completeness, and all those things. I'm keeping it at very high level here. Like, you can use this prompt as well. There's nothing wrong in using this prompt, but it's going to ask a lot of questions after using this prompt, right? When I'm using something like a detailed one, which has a better information like S3 location, what is the format, refresh times, compliance, I'm mentioning clearly the PII columns, the shipping address, and customer name. And I'm saying require constant tracking, right to share ratios. It's basically a GDPR requirement. So this is probably what I use, and I'm basically saying keep it simple. Like you can opt for star schemas in here. Star schema is more of the reporting format, and you can keep it simple as like flat denormalized table for ad hoc analytics. I'm keeping it simple for the quick demo. Otherwise, this process can take up to 1 to 2 hours because it's building end-to-end pipeline, deploying it into AWS, testing it. It takes a while. Like
Hopefully, you got like a recorded demo for us today.
yeah, no, I was thinking like kickstarting this and show how it works, and then I'll show a demo, end-to-end demo. So I'm clearly mentioning no star schema, and this will take time. Star schema is splitting the table into separate dimensions and facts, and that speeds up the analysis, but not the demo. So I thought clearly said no star schema, and I'm gonna give us like, hey, data quality issues, transformation. I'm very specific on some of those formats here. So you can be specific, you can be a little bit vague. Cloud codes and Kiros of the world are forgiving, and they will ask a bunch of questions, and I included that in the prompt on how to add best practices to onboard data, right? So I'm going to copy this format and I'm going to paste it into my terminal here. Oh. Takes a few seconds. Yep, there you go. And I kickstart. So this agent will start analyzing the prompt and come up with a couple of questions and see it start looking into some of the patterns to see if there is an existing directory with a similar name. If there is one, it would highlight and say, hey, you already have e-commerce this thing and you should not be duplicating this effort. So yeah, so it's going through the sample files on the CSV in the S3 location. It identified 22 columns, CSV format. See, it has better information now. So it wouldn't ask much question, but it will still ask some of these questions to make sure that we are heading in the right direction. You can always use the vague prompt. You can always use the detailed prompt. It's up to you, and based on your maturity level in the organization, and different personas have different way of interacting with this agent. So I want to say it is forgiving. It will ask the right questions and make sure you onboard the data in the right fashion. So this is going to go for some time. It will analyze some of these data sets. We'll start building some of these workloads. And under workloads, if you see that, I have onboarded different data sets. What for e-commerce, it started creating separate folders for configurations like semantic layer and OWL format. And for DAGs, it created a separate folder. Logs, it's tried to capture some of these logs. Eventually, it will start showing up. It'll start showing the scripts where you extract, load, data quality. All these information will be stored, will be populated very soon. So I want to show one example of, I think this is the best example, financial portfolio. Yeah, this is one of the good examples. I can show like governance, like it has the the LF tag script. LF tag is the lake formation tag. If you identified a personal PII information, it will create those tags and tag it the right way and push it into lake formation. There are quality checks, which runs a couple of quality checks like uniqueness, etc. Here, it builds all these scripts here, and then comes the transformation script. And this is for each and every zone. It will start building those scripts, which can be deployed into the glue pipelines. And this is the memory where it talks about, it captures all the memories, understand what are the quality threshold, what happened in the, so that when you run this again, it goes through the tribal knowledge and what went wrong and how can we improve our prompts. All these things can be used in this memory things. So like I said, DAGs and everything will all be created here locally. And this is for already created pipeline. And let me show a quick demo on my, I have a recorded demo.
So while you're pulling this, John, quick question is, you were running this on Cloud, right? So is that running on Bedrock?
That is correct. Yes, the Claude is pointing to Bedrock, and it's a very easy connection, like a few lines of code, and you're pointing to Bedrock. And That is correct. And some of our customers have very specific data residency requirements, so they opt for Bedrock, and Bedrock provides all these models. And with all these new announcements, it's going to be one place where you can shop pretty much everything. So that's something interesting coming up.
Excellent.
Let me quickly share the recorded video. It's like a 2 to 3 hour video compressed into 30 minutes. So apologize for the speed of the video. Let me share the screen.
Is that all it takes to migrate, through this accelerated pipeline, the 3 hours?
Yeah, imagine like I want to say last 20 years I've been working in the data space. It takes weeks and months to onboard some of the data pipelines, and there are like some repeatable pipelines that we have to keep on onboarding the same way. It's not just about capturing requirements. It's about building, testing, and all these things. At that time, we used to write the script on our own. Now we have agents to do that job much faster, much cleaner, and we can do some of the ambitious work like ontology now. Like ontology is an old concept, and I want to say it was not popular at that time. Now agent is helping me build those ontology. Now I can build a better semantic layer, and I can build a discipline into the onboarding process across the enterprise. So yeah, I mean, I want to show like a quick demo of this. Like when it kickstarts, it shows like the data onboarding agent is right here. It goes through different phases: profiling data, discovery, metadata agent, and it'll kickstart all these agents and start analyzing the metadata of the CSV file. And yeah, so basically it shows all the different zones and what the requirements are. Like I put a requirement star schema here. It goes through reporting dashboards. Like they have like ad hoc analytics, ML feature engineering, API real time. It gives you like options to select from. Like it's not like so these are all coming from the prompts, so that the onboarding agent, let it be a different persona, non-technical or semi-technical, they are given bunch of choices on they can pick these choices and then move on with the data onboarding process. So let's say if I pick reporting data and reporting and dashboards, it knows that it has to create a star schema to better suit those requirements and make the reportings much faster. So it's asking those questions, and yeah, and behind the scenes is crunching the code. Yeah, so it's building those gold zones. It's building those gold zones in the Glue database. So it has different databases for each zones, and also build those data quality checks. Here, it's doing some of those data profiling checks right now. And it's also testing the gates where it clearly says the data quality passed, 100% referential integrity, no missing ticker symbols. This is like a portfolio data that I'm playing with, and it runs a couple of these analysis. Now it's spawning the agent. Like you can see the spawning the sub agents. So the main agent is spawning 3 or 4 sub agents, and these 4 sub agents are like a warm start. I want to highlight that. That means it's not a cold start agent. These are like warm start. They share the context. They save the state locally, and they can share the state across, so that even if there is something wrong or something goes wrong, it can pick up those contexts and start where it left off previously. So the sub metadata agent is kickstarting right now. It's spawning those agents now, and then comes the data quality agent. One by one, you can see some of those agents going, and you can see the logs. The logs looks something like this, and it will give you end-to-end perspective on what each agent did. So there is something called agent trace that we capture, which means how it uses the MCPs behind the scenes, what tools it uses behind the scene. All these information will be captured under something called agent trace. It's very important to understand that. So if there is an audit or something along those lines, you can always look up the agent trace and figure out what went wrong, what did the agent choose during that time, and why it chose. All those information will be captured in the agent trace. And basically, once everything is complete, it'll say, hey, local scripts are done. These are the tables that I'm looking at, and all these semantic layers, source information, transformation, all these scripts are created locally first, and they are tested locally to make sure there is no syntax error before running it on Glue or EMRs of the world. So some of these things are continuously checked and tested as it progresses to the deploy phase. So right now it's all created local. You can see all these config files, transformations, all the tests, integration tests, and you can see the statuses. So you can in between interrupt the agent and ask, what is happening with my agents? Like where are you right now? All these things, agent would respond immediately. I think there's something in Claude called / by the way, so BTW, and then you can ask some of these questions and it tells you where exactly it is and what phase it is. So it keeps on going and continuously editing some of these parts. And now, this is the area where I want to show that it is deploying these agents into uh, the AWS ecosystem. So it wants to, before deployment, it asks you some questions like, do you want to deploy this now? Like all the tests pass. And once you say yes, it start uploading the DAG into the managed Airflow right now, if you can see this. Now, again, parallelly, it's creating glue jobs and uploading those scripts into glue jobs and setting up the quick site dashboard. And this is the example where I'm onboarding data without manual intervention. I'm building a dashboard from scratch, which means I'm onboarding data from a landing zone, uh, moving it from landing, curation, and or silver, bronze, and gold zone. After hitting the gold zone, I want it to create a dashboard, which I explained in natural language, and that's what it's doing. So you can see all these steps. Everything is being set up in parallel fashion. You can always tell agent to deploy in parallel fashion if the time is a constraint, and there are certain agent understands what are the dependencies between each agents and will deploy some agents in parallel, some agents in sequential manner. So it keeps on going. Where I'm going to is now it started deploying. Deployment takes some time. It wants to make sure once it deployed in Glue, it has to run the Glue job and make sure it works. Sometimes if it doesn't work, again, it's very forgiving. It'll fix what is going on and ask the user more questions. So some of these things, and you can see, it is running the pipeline right now to make sure end-to-end test is complete. I see few issues. Let me fix the pipeline. So there are few things that it is forgiving it, updating the code on the fly, and you can always change it to accept on edits so that you can be part of each and every step. Here for the demo sake, I went with bypass permission, but always highly recommend having these in accept on edit so that you understand. It gives you a high level estimate on what's the cost that looks like, etc. here. And it takes a while. These testing and deployments, it takes a while. So that's why I was telling it's very difficult to show this demo end to end sometimes on a live stream, whereas recorded is much easier. So I'm compressing 2.5 to 3 hours of video into 13 minutes. So as we progress, so it gets to a phase where everything is deployed and slowly start working on the quick site dashboard. So this is where I want to say, so I want to quickly move here.
And while you're loading this, one more question is on the model itself, right? So do you need the Opuses of the world or the Sonnet models? So what models work best for this use case?
Yeah, so I would say Sonnet should be good enough. We have seen better results with Sonnet. You can use Opus, but we have built those skills and given enough context, embedded all those best practices and decision engine. So at this point, I would highly recommend people to use Sonnet model, not Opus, because all the decisions are already made for the agent, and we don't want the agent to be deterministic, right? In this particular scenario, we want it to be very specific, focused on data engineering use case, and also focused on organizational philosophy. You have to embed that organizational philosophy here. You want to make sure the tools.md file has the right tools, not any tools, but the right tools that fits the organizational goals. So that's why we don't need Opuses of the world right now. We can stick to something like a Sonnet smaller model.
Cool.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, I said cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So what it's doing right now is it's checking the console and going through the console as we speak. It's making sure all the dimensions, facts, everything is created, and you can see we are running queries against the data on Athena. So all those things are happening as we speak, and then comes the once everything is good, looking good in Athena, we are looking at the dashboard. So dashboard is created behind the scene. Like I said before, you don't have to look at the console anymore. You can all you have to do is ask the agent where they are, and it can start give you the status on like, hey, I created ETL scripts, I created my glue job, I created the quick site dashboards, etc. So now everything is complete. All the you can see the DAG right here, and I'm going to the quick suite dashboard and looking at the dashboard at a high level here. So you can now see these dashboards. It create those dashboards. It's creating each and every report based on the data set that we loaded. So where I'm going to is it is capable of generating some of those data sets. It is generated once the data set is created, you can start creating those dashboards, the visualizations behind it. And in one of my examples, I even showed I copy pasted something from Google search. Like I like certain dashboards on Google search. I copy pasted and said, hey, I want this color scheme. And Claude or Kiro was capable of in general to make those edits to the dashboards and make those color changes. So that's where we are. And this is how we can develop end to end. And meanwhile, my other the ADOP framework live framework is at a phase where it started. Let me share the other screen to show where it is now. So it finished the very first phase now. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay. So there it is. So after providing the prompt, the onboarding summary is provided here. It created all these zones. It ran a couple of these data quality checks, the PII detection. It picked some of these PII column, and some of them it masked. So you have to understand some of these requirements. And all these files will have under workloads e-commerce folder, which means on the side, if you look at workloads and e-commerce, you can see some of these files being created. DAGs, logs, scripts, quality checks, transformation scripts. I don't think we have SQL, but let's see. Oh, it's a basic Athena query to make sure it works.
Mhm.
So all these are now created and tests are all generated. Now, the next step is the pipeline is ready for AWS deployment. And this is where we say, go ahead and deploy. And what it does, it go ahead and deploy and keep me posted on the status. So all I have to do is just wait. It'll take a few minutes to hours based on the type of deployment. And when it comes to glue scripts, it makes sure that it runs end to end. So it will take some time. Checking the existing LF tags and all these information. It makes sure that you have the right gig formation access and all those things in order to run those scripts and deploy those scripts.
So one thing I like about this framework is that you're also including the testing phase
Yeah.
into the framework, right? So and then looking at the results, making sure that everything works well. And can you speak on the compliance aspects also, John? Like I know you.
Yes. I want to highlight that. Good point that you brought up. So under the prompt folder, you can see something called data onboarding agent, DevOps agent, all these agents here. And if you look at this compliance, right, regulations, these are the prompts for CCPA. So I want to highlight that these are the prompts that I use for CCPA requirements. I also provide some of these tags and all these examples here, and some of the common PII types. And if you look for GDPR, it's something very similar to CCPA, but I will bring up HIPAA. HIPAA is more regulated, and it has more KMS keys and all those information. All the prompts are stored here. and also quick checks on commands also at the same time. So it's much easier, like less tokens used. If I just say check, it'll have to figure out the scripts and everything, so the token usage goes up. But if you are very specific with these skills and everything, it is much easier and much faster. Like this, you can have SOX compliance too. For financial firms, they love to onboard data using SOX compliance. They make sure data sensitivity, PII type, classifications. And I've seen a lot of customers coming back as a afterthought, like, oh, now I have a lot of data in there. I'm not sure how to classify data. So this is something solved with this agent as a built-in discipline. I want to say built-in discipline and more focused Claude Code or Heroes with the right skill sets and prompts so that they can onboard the data in a structured manner compared to
Now, John, what if somebody wants to get started with like sample data, right? So do we have any data set that they could get started with?
Yeah, so I put a couple of these data sets here, sample data here, like a couple of these things, and they can onboard these data sets and see how it works. This can be uploaded to an S3 and start playing with these data sets. And I've also already provided a couple of these workloads here, scripts. You can see how these folders are structured. So similarly, when you onboard a new data set, make sure that it follows some of these structures, and you can see some of these scripts. And on top of that, we have like all the, I'm going to say, yeah, I want to introduce quickly to the tools.md file. So this is where people can log in and clone this repository and start making changes. Like I mentioned, in a structured manner for S3 tables, use this iceberg format, or like a core Lambda. I want to use serverless compute. For step function is an alternate if the Airflow is not available. So you can literally mention some of these concepts into these prompts so that people can start tweaking based on their organizational philosophy, which means I don't use Lambda, I use EC2 instead. Okay, you can interrupt Lambda, put EC2, and when EC2 is not available, that's when they should be using Lambda. So some of these things, I want to say, clone this repository, play with this tools.md file, and then you will understand how to cater this prompt into your organizational philosophy. And definitely the claude.md is the main file. Please go through it. You will be able to understand how this whole sub agent works, orchestrator agent works. Start making some changes. Here is where I'm mentioning, hey, refer tools.md for any kind of tooling, right? So some of these concepts, start playing with it, tweak it, and you'll be able to understand how the whole system works. And the best part is, I've seen customers extended this ADOP framework to migrate from let's say a third-party database into AWS, complete automated fashion without a partner requirement. So some of these customers are extending ADOP into different scenarios.
So bringing third-party data into AWS without tools.
Yeah, without tools. And some of them are like, let's say, completely on Redshift, and they want to save on cost, on storage and compute. They move some of those data onto Iceberg in a combination of Redshift. So there are like different, you'll be surprised how these customers are improvising ADOP and extending ADOP in order to handle multiple scenarios within their ecosystem.
Yeah, this is a cool demo, right? So
yeah, we're coming up with a workshop for customers soon, and every customers can join us, and we can do a workshop together. We have different ways to collaborate with customer and cater it to their needs. Right now, I kept this repository as generic as possible, but eventually they can make modifications and tweak it, play with it, and then and like I said, it's forgiving, and it is self-explanatory. If you ask Claude or Kiro, it'll explain what's going on and how to make changes. So feel free, clone this repository today. And Anil, were you able to share the link?
Yep. The link is in the chat.
Perfect. Yeah, you can clone the repository right away, play with it, and let us know some feedback.
Cool. Awesome. John, thanks so much for coming on today and sharing this with the team. Like, I'm really excited that we were able to have kind of like a longer form discussion about this today and go through both the kind of like why behind it as well as see it in action. So thanks a lot for taking the time. And folks who tuned in, we do this every week. So if you'd like to learn more and see more AI from Amazon, come back to the same time, same place next Tuesday, and we'll be here once again. Again, thanks a lot, John, for coming on. Anil, thanks for coordinating this one, and we'll see everybody next time. All right. Thanks a lot,
Thanks
folks.
for having me, guys.
Cheers.